Good afternoon, and welcome to our weekly Torah Insight and Story. The Parsha that we're reading this week features the Mishkan, the portable sanctuary in the desert, and its vessels that were used in the sanctuary. The first vessel is the Ark, the Aron. Now, the Torah tells us it was made out of shittim wood. It tells us the dimensions: 2.5 cubits long by 1.5 wide and 1.5 height. Then it says, you shall cover it with pure gold, inside and outside. So Rashi explains that it's not as we would think, that it was made out of wood and they coated the wood with gold. No, there were 3 boxes. 2 boxes made out of gold and 1 out of wood. And what happened was they put the wooden box in a golden box and another golden box in the wooden box, and then they coated the surface with gold. So it was actually 3 boxes and 2 gold and 1 wood. And the question is, why 3 boxes? What's the significance of the 3 boxes? But there's another question asked by a 13th century commentator known as the Heschel. He says, why was there a need for, if you need 3 boxes, okay, but why would 1 be wood? Why not make all 3 out of gold? And his answer is that if all 3 would be made out of gold, it would be too heavy, and they had to carry it. They couldn't carry it on a wagon. The Torah says they had to carry it on their shoulders, and if it would be 3 golden boxes, it would be too heavy to carry. And I saw some commentator says he doesn't understand. The Talmud tells us that the ark, even though it was carried by people, the ark carried the people. It was a miracle that the ark was the one that carried the people. The people didn't have to carry it. They were going through the motions. So who cares how heavy it would be? The ark was picking them up anyhow. So what difference would it make if there would be 3 boxes of gold or 2 boxes of gold and 1 of wood? It wouldn't make much of a difference if the ark is doing all the heavy lifting. So I'd like to give 2 answers to that question. One answer is that something was unique about the ark. The ark was a combination of nature and supernatural. Usually we have in our world natural, and we have miracles that are supernatural. But then here's a combination of the 2. In what way was it combined? The ark had to be exact dimensions, 2.5 by 1.5 by 1.5. If it was a millimeter off, it wouldn't be kosher. In other words, it had to occupy space. And yet, when you measured the space in the sanctuary, the ark did not occupy any space. That whatever you measured from one wall to the ark and from the other side of the ark to the other wall, it would be the same as if it would be without an ark. It didn't occupy space, but yet it occupied space. The same thing may be said over here as well. Yes, it's true that the ark miraculously was able to lift up the people, but the people also carried it. They also felt the burden, the heaviness. The ark did weigh down on them, even though miraculously the ark lifted them up, but they also felt the weight, and that's why it couldn't have been made out of gold. That's one way of explaining it, but I'd like to focus on another way that has much more emphasis on our role in everything. The ark is said to symbolize the Torah. The ark contained within it the tablets, and according to one opinion, it also had a Torah scroll that Moses wrote in the ark. Another opinion says it was on the side of the ark, but either way, the ark represents Torah. Now, Torah is divine wisdom. So the question is, how does a human being, a mortal, a finite human being, how is he capable of understanding Torah, which is infinite? It is divine. And the answer is that God, in his infinite kindness, contracted the Torah and allowed it to enter into our finite, limited human minds. And when we study Torah, we absorb this divine wisdom. That's a miracle, but that's a gift that God gave us. And that gift, you would think, would be given to people who are gold. Gold represents the highest caliber, the highest level spiritually. It's a metaphor for spiritually golden people. But what about if you're just a piece of wood, if you're just ordinary, if you're not sophisticated spiritually? The Torah, you would think, does not apply to that person. So the Torah says no. The ark had to have in it, you had to have gold. Yes, it's true, because Torah is a gift from God where infinite wisdom is allowed to be absorbed by a finite mind, but provided the person has a golden soul. But what about if the person is just ordinary? The person is just made out of wood. Not just wood. It was the kind of wood was shittim wood. They translate it as acacia. But the Talmud says that the word shittim is related to the idea of foolishness. Even a person whose life is a life of foolishness. What is the ultimate foolishness in a human being's behavior? The ultimate foolishness is where a person does something contrary to God's will and thinking that it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't affect you. There's no greater folly than that. And the whole purpose of the Mishkan, of the sanctuary, was to take the foolishness of the world and transform it into a sanctuary for God. So even a person whose relationship with God is one on a level of foolishness, they're mediocre or worse, they're rebellious, they're totally apathetic or even rebellious in terms of their Judaism, even such a person has the right and the license and the ability to access Torah. And that's why when the Cheskuni says the reason why they didn't have 3 boxes out of gold, because it would be too heavy, that would mean that it, not physically too heavy, but the Torah would be too burdensome for a average Jew. He would not be able to comprehend it, wouldn't be able to absorb it, to access it, to internalize it, to even understand it. That's why the ark, which symbolizes Torah, also had wood in it to say that Torah could be accessed by everyone. Everyone has the ability to access Torah. And the reason why they have that ability is because every Jew has gold in him and outside of him. What does that mean? The Talmud says that even the sinners of Israel are filled with mitzvahs, like a pomegranate is filled with seeds. In other words, not only do we have at our core of our soul, no matter how bad we are, the core of our soul is pure as gold. But not only that, but even our behavior, even if we think we're rebellious and we have no relationship with doing good, it's unbelievable how many mitzvahs even the sinners of Israel do, and they're considered to be filled with mitzvahs. So we have gold in the inside, at the core. We have gold on the outside. Yes, in the middle we might have some foolish wood. We might have some negativity. But because we're sandwiched in between gold, even the Jew who is foolish wood, symbolically speaking, metaphorically speaking, even that Jew has the ability to absorb and internalize the Torah. Now, nowadays, we have this distinction between the gold Jew and the wooden Jew, that the wooden Jew is a little bit in a situation where they don't seem to be accessible to Torah, and you have to rely on their core and on their outer behavior that has so many mitzvahs. But when Mashiach comes, we will all be filled. The Torah says, the book of Isaiah says, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the sea covers the waters. The whole sea is, everything in the sea is submerged in water. We will be deluged with the knowledge of Torah, the knowledge of God. So every one of us will be gold. Does that mean that the ark will change? I don't know. I haven't seen anyone who suggested that. But the wood itself will have the same value as the gold. We'll put it that way, because we will all be filled with that knowledge. But nowadays, when we have these distinctions, some of us are gold, and some of us are silver, some of us are copper, some of us are just wood, and some of us are shittim wood, foolish wood. Even so, we all have the right to access Torah. And as the Talmud says, that even a sinner should study Torah because the light in the Torah will bring the person back to the goodness. The story I want to tell is a contemporary story. I'm just going to put together a few tidbits. We witnessed this past week the miraculous salvation of 2 of the hostages. Now, there are a lot of stories. I don't have the names, so I'm just going to tell you the different stories about it. These the relatives of the hostages were at a gathering where a Chabad rabbi, it was Rabbi Lipsker, Mrs. Lipsker, said to them that when we ask God for something, we make a resolution to do something that's not easy for us to do. And then God will do his part to do something that is out of the ordinary, a miracle. And the Mrs. Lipsker, the Rebbitzin, asks this woman, I think it might have been a daughter of the hostage, would you agree to light Shabbos candles every week? And even though she was not a religious person, it seems, and she didn't do it in the past, she agreed to do it. And then the boy, the young man, she asked, is he prepared to put on tefillin every day? And he said, yes, but could I start in a week from now? She says, no, you have to start doing it right away. And he agreed. And a few days later, the relatives were released, were liberated. Another part of it was one of the family members went to the Ohel, the resting place of the Rebbe, and they prayed there. There was another thing that happened before they were released. And a third thing was, and this is a custom that many Hasidim have, that when they want to ask the Rebbe for a blessing or for advice, they take one of the many volumes of the Rebbe's letters. To date, there are about 40 plus volumes of the Rebbe's letters, with about 13,000 letters, which is a fraction of what the Rebbe produced in terms of his letters. But anyhow, they opened it up randomly, and it was a letter to someone where the Rebbe talks about how someone was freed from prison. So that letter was opened up right a few days before they were released. So all these different things came together, and I think there are other things as well which demonstrate that our spiritual relationship with God, when we make resolutions to do a mitzvah, and we do it in the merit of a person who's in trouble, who needs a blessing, especially hostages need the ultimate blessing to be released from prison to freedom. We should all make resolutions to do another mitzvah, whether it's to give extra tzedakah, whether it is to say prayers, whether it's to put on tefillin, whether for women to light Shabbos candles, whether to keep kosher or to keep Shabbos. There are so many mitzvahs we have. We should pick one mitzvah, even a mitzvah that we already do, but to do it in a better way and in merit of those Jews who have to be liberated from being hostages. And may Hashem see to it that we should see the imminent liberation of the hostages, and in a sense we're all hostages in exile, and God should take us out of exile by bringing us Mashiach imminently.